There we go.
Good morning, Chad. I wanted to share our PowerComps by TagniFi platform with you and our community this morning.
Hey, Bob, looking
Um,
forward to it.
Great. Let me get started real quick because I want to keep everybody's time tight today. Um, what you're seeing on screen, and I'd like to start with this slide first, is this is one of the outputs from the PowerComps database. We break it out, the data, and you'll see by multiple ways, but the most important thing you see here as you look at our YouTube um, is the data on industries. And we break this down to 6 digit granular. I pulled up machinery manufacturing. I could have pulled up any of several hundred different NAICS breakouts. But you're seeing the various deal sizes that we show. And probably more important, you're seeing the number of deals. One of the things we do that's different is we get our data from both sell side and buy side professionals, advisors, people involved in the deals, completed deals only, a million to 999 million, and then mature profitable businesses, those that are with valuation multiples of 2.5 to 20 times adjusted EBITDA. And we do that to avoid distressed and venture. But you're never seeing individual deals or names of deals. And what that does, it allows folks to give us meaningful information on private transactions that they otherwise would not share. If we have less than 3 deals, we just don't show. It would be a blank, or you would summarize it. But that's really one of the keys. The other key thing when you look at this is right off the bat, and I tend to use medians, so we share averages, we have the percent, top 2/3, is you can see the size premium that we're showing. And this happens almost on every industry, and it varies, obviously. But this is, as we get into this, one of the most valuable uses is pointing out the difference between a smaller deal. So this has an average enterprise value of $5 million dollars and an average multiple of EBITDA at 4.6 times. You go up to a $100 million deal, which is probably in the 10 to 12 million EBITDA range. How the multiple more than doubles. And that's really, when you get to the guts, I mean, you like to have market benchmarks, and we'll show you that. But really pointing out that size premium that happens in these private deals. And that's where I wanted to get started with you today.
Really
Um,
interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And so, I guess for like valuation professionals, not only can they look at the industry and get valuation multiples, for different industries that on deals that really aren't available out there from any other source, because they're private deals that they did not disclose the terms, through a press release or anything like that. But also maybe for like discount analysis, and you can see, okay, here's a company, the valuation for, let's say, a $250 million company. That's going to be a different multiple than like a $25 million revenue company, so I mean, is that kind of how the valuation professionals are using the data?
yeah, exactly. They're using it for a few different areas. First, a lot of them are trusted advisors as well as doing valuation reports. So to be able to start that conversation off, even for marketing purposes, you need to do a valuation to understand this, or to predicate what's going to happen once the valuation gets done, because they know there's going to be expectations, and they want the work product to be accepted for the quality of the work, not the answer. But so they're using it for mark to market valuations. They're using it to manage expectations. Um, and so that's the guts, and also to follow market trends. We just launched this about 8 months ago, and the nice thing is, as we grow some of the reports, looking at how multiples change overall and within different industries on a year to year, quarter to quarter basis. That's another big thing. The other users we have a lot of uh, the M&A professionals, the sell side and buy side, and then we have a lot of private equity groups, as well as debt providers that need good marks. But the managing seller expectations, we can't say enough about how much it costs to go to market with a deal, and to be able to say beforehand, you might think you're worth 10 times, but let's see what market is. And then they can get into all the other dynamics that happen. We're never here to tell somebody that they're, um, you know, with $20 million in revenue is worth 8.7 times in this space. We are here to say that's market. So where do you fall in the market? And that's up to the valuation professionals, the M&A professionals to say you've got other issues, be it customer concentration, management, um, long-term contracts, all those things that come into play. We're not taking that away. You need to do that, but what is market for good quality businesses that have been completed? That's where we like to be able to share that information and how the professionals you're talking about are using this.
That's I mean, really, this is the holy grail of valuation and transaction data for the middle market. Without a tool like this, the data really is not out there. You'd have to go call an investment banker to get this data. And basically what we're doing here is taking that data, anonymizing it, making it available. And so this example we're looking at here, this is for machinery manufacturing. Looks like the NAICS code is 333. So how far down can you go to get, very specific industries? Like how many levels of the NAICS code do you support?
Sure. So if and we'll get to the users in a second, but let's just show you how the browse function works. So you're starting to work on evaluation, a M&A deal, and you have I'll just stick with machinery manufacturing just to kind of keep it consistent. But you would go to 3.1 and then you hit drill down and you'll see all the industries we have 3-digit breakouts. Now here, textile mills, even though we have two deals, you see how it's kept lighter here because we're not going to share unless we have at least three transactions. And then you can take all of these and we'll go to chemical manufacturing and we'll hit another drill down and so forth, where we can get this down to 6 digits, as long as we have at least three deals. And so normally what people do is they'll start with a 3-digit and then go to the 4-digit. Once you get a little too granular, it's tough to make assumptions from four deals or such, but you may do that also just to be able to say this is what we found. And then you look at the level of standard deviation and such to see. And standard deviations are great that way. With some show you that it's a pretty tight range that things are traded in, and some tell you there's going to be a pretty big range. So it's not just what market is; it's going to be more about the business. So that's some of the things that we find. But let me show you how we're collecting the data because invariably people want to know what are you getting? How do I know it's good data? Um, so when M&A firms, private equity firms agree to participate and share information with us, we have them fill out this template. We're pretty careful who we let in. We've had several that want to participate, and we don't take venture, we don't take distressed. We want firms that are good professionals, so we know that either through interacting with them over the years or just recognizing where they are in their business cycle. But we get a transaction date by quarter. They give us an NAICS code, or we'll get that for them. But we always want that target description because NAICS codes, as you know, will vary, and so we want to be able to have our team double check that. The deal type, the acquire type's very key because in different markets, like we're currently seeing, strategics, especially strategic corporates, are going more frequently. So you have to ask who's going to buy that business if it's meant for an exit. Is it going to be a financial platform, or are you going to need somebody to have the synergies? They give us the role that they participated, so we'll be able to compare numbers from the buy side and the sell side and such. These are all either U.S. or Canadian deals, and we have them designate that. Uh, Capture enterprise value. There was rollover equity, earnouts and duration period. Um, the revenue growth rate for the last 12 months, the EBITDA. We're even capturing EBITDA add backs, which people really like to see that because it's a good benchmark within its own. On the debt side, we get that normally from the buy side folks. So we're building that out. And then deal terms, because when you're looking at source of funds and such, where where is the money going? How much is going to be in indemnification? What is typical indemnification for an industry of size? Was there rep and warranty insurance? A basket? So all these things that your clients, targets need to understand. Um, this is the type of data that we're able to collect, and then you hit the submit deal. So we keep it tight, which gives us good both compliance. People are willing to share because it's not taking them more than 10 minutes to include a deal. And we know with data, it breaks down after a certain amount of time when people are digging things out. Um,
And
the
Bob, as
output
far as
then,
the review process after the deal is submitted, is somebody reviewing that data to make sure that it's all looks good and there's no, that there's nothing that's out of the ordinary in that data?
sure, we have two ways we review the data before we accept a deal. The first is we have an internal system that looks for duplicates, looks for outliers, and that pulls that up automatically. It goes through about 8 or 9 different uh, fields. And then we have the human touch, where we're looking at things on a no name basis. All we're seeing is deal and the code number, to see if something just doesn't make sense. When we see a deal with 1.5 million of EBITDA trading at 20 times or 18 times, unless it's in tech, that's the type of thing that we'll exclude from the database. But we recognize there are outliers, just how broad of an outlier it is. So we go through two systems there, and it it seems to work quite well. It's fairly rigorous, and that's how we ensure quality control.
Right. And I guess speaking of quality, one of the challenges with just taking aggregate data is you kind of lose that without knowing the name of the company or anything more than on the deal. Is it a quality company, and what's the kind of the quality premium for the valuation multiple? So, say, there's good companies and not so good companies, and how do you know kind of what that premium is, that value or quality premium is that's out there?
And let me just show you. I'm going to just pull up a broader one here. But one of the things we measure is the EBITDA margin, that we're able to pull internally. And these margins, again, these are completed deals. So normally completed deals are better businesses. But you can see these margins are in the 13 to 15%. And this is for wholesale trade, which tends to be relatively modest margins compared to other deals that are averaging close to 20% on the margins. So that's one of the areas we'll be able to compare as we go forward, margins versus multiples. So we can take these 25 deals, and the deals with margins above 15% and the deals with margins below 15%, see how that multiple is affected. Historically, what we know is, lower margin deals get lower multiples just because of the risk, the debt, if it's a leverage buyout and such. So those are the type of things that we're able to look at from the quality side. Of course, size is always a quality aspect because it's bigger, it has more flex to it.
Right. And so I assume I see that download CSV button there. So, as a user, if I wanted to download this, put it into a chart, put it in either a valuation report or reference it, in a deck, a slide, is that something that I can do?
Yep, it's a one click, go to a CSV, it'll show up on your screen, and then you would just save it in Excel or however, and then use it in your work product. So we make that as easy as possible. We also
Great.
are publishing reports. Some of you may have seen our quarterly market update that we'll be putting out every quarter, tracking a variety of the fields you just saw. And then we have online reports that will be expanding. But overall, just looking at the deals and the deal market, one of the nice things, we're very pleased that we've only been doing this for 8 months now, and we already have in 2024 246 deals contributed, and we just hit the 200 mark for the trailing 4 quarters. And of course, deals come in all the time, so we might add contributor, and when they put in their deals for 2022 or 2023, that'll update these numbers. So that's going to continue to grow. But because we're getting data not just from buy side, sell side folks, it really enables us to get a heck of a lot more deals. And you can see the bulk of the deals are in the um, 10 to 200 million range, but we're able to share the smaller deal sizes as well as the larger deal sizes to get good perspective in there, which was very nice. People appreciate that. And again, you can download these charts as a CSV.
Very interesting. And how far back does the data go? What is the kind of the first deal that's in the PowerComps
There
database?
are some deals in the 2021 bucket, but the, most of the contributors now only share data 2022 forward. It was important to us to isolate that. It doesn't, we could have had hundreds or thousands more deals if we asked people to go back further. Um, but there is a currency to market, and that's one of the reasons we break everything out by quarter and by year. Um, and that's that's important. We've uh, had people talk to us about other databases they use, and you might have more deals in a particular NAICS code, but a deal that was done in 2014 versus 2024 has a lot different relevancy to our consumers out there.
That's great. Thank you.
I think this should give you a pretty good sense of what we're doing. It's you know, we're making it available in a couple different ways. People who are able to participate are investment bankers, private equity groups that can contribute information where they were involved in the completed deals. They get a specific discount. And then once they put their deals in, and then the valuation firms, they can either add it on. So if they have a value subscription to TagniFi, they can get a independent subscription for their firm just for PowerComps, where they can upgrade their TagniFi subscription. So they really appreciate having to have both all the public deal data as well that you get from TagniFi, as well as the private deal information with PowerComps.
Great.
Um,
And as far as going to the website, powercomps.com, that's the best way for users to learn more, kind of take an initial look, get a demo if
yes,
they want.
yeah, go to powercomps.com. I'd love to, uh, or just ping me, which you'll see our contact information at powercomps.com, and we can do a 15 to 20-minute review with you and your team. And I think you'll really appreciate just taking a little more time in the detail. But the response has been terrific. Almost everybody that walks through it says, yes, not only does this make sense, but thank you. We need this data and we don't need to spend the cost that some people are trying to charge for deal
Yeah,
data that's not even as tight as this as yet. So,
that's great. I do have one follow-up question before we go. Just from a valuation perspective and for valuation professionals, since we're not naming specific, name business names, target names in this database, is this still data that valuation professionals can use in their valuation reports?
correct. It's got some advantages being, there's nothing worse than seeing an individual deal and not knowing, and then the individual deal happens to have an outlier. These are benchmarks. And so when people in the valuation world use this data, they're very careful to cite that, this is data, and we state this in our terms, that should be used in conjunction with other data points. But it is benchmarks that are, self-contributed. And once people respect that and they know it's one of a few data points, but it is market on completed private deals, which um, that's, how people use it very comfortably and avoid any challenges to see individual deals that just would not happen.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. No, this has been great, Chad, and look forward to hearing from people as they go through this. And we'll keep you posted on our updates because we have a lot more to add to Power Comps over the next year or two. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right.